Hey everyone, welcome. I have a real treat for us today. I am talking with Mr. Brad Singer. He's a licensed clinical social worker with a wealth of knowledge and experience. So, Mr. Singer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Could you just give us a little bit of information about your background?
Sure. So I have a master's degree in social work. I'm an LCSW through the state of Illinois. I have been a licensed clinical social worker now for 24 years.
Wow.
24 years, long time. Um, and I have worked in a quite a big variety of populations and institutions. So I got my master's degree and went and worked in an acute hospital setting on the medical side. So I worked in the ER, ICU, neurology clinics, um, and then spent about 2.5 years working in a level 2 trauma center in inner city Peoria, Illinois, and started working in a private practice, a Christian private practice. Um, and decided that I really enjoyed working with children. So I was a play therapist for about 9 years and was literally about 6 hours away from earning my registered play therapist certification. And then was working with some domestic violence, a domestic violence shelter, sexual assault, elder abuse. Um, so kind of a wide variety when I was in Illinois. And then um, the winters just became too brutal for my wife and I, so we moved south. And I started working here at Fort Stewart over 16 years ago as a clinician, a social worker. And about 12 years ago, I was promoted to the team lead position, and I've been supervising our clinic ever since.
That's a long time that you've been working in the military system too, then.
Yes, yes, 16 plus years.
So, why do you say it's important to distinguish men's mental health issues from mental health issues in general?
I think mental health issues in general is perceived relatively well in the media, um, in the context of um, what depression looks like for a lot of people, what anxiety looks like for a lot of people. I think whether it be through movies, commercials, infomercials, media in the context of just overall mental health well-being, I think they do a pretty good job at um, educating individuals on what the average symptomology looks like. My experience has been that men's mental health oftentimes looks a lot different for a variety of reasons. Some of those reasons could just be that men in general are not the most emotionally intelligent people per se. I don't think that men are as wired to address emotions, speak emotions, understand emotions, be able to put words to emotions and express them in a way um, that are relatable and understandable. Um, most emotions in most men come out as either happy or mad. Um, and so I oftentimes think that men are mislabeled as being angry or being jerks or being, something in that negative connotation, when in reality, it's very likely that they're dealing with issues of depression, sadness, anxiety, grief, um, trauma. It's just a variety of mental health issues that men experience is oftentimes expressed through anger. And I think it's important to understand that um, because I think we do a great disservice to many men by literally just pushing them towards anger management groups or working on anger management when in reality they're dealing with some issues that are significantly more distressing than that.
I had seen that too. Working, in the military population, obviously the majority of my clients were men.
Yes.
And that was something that I experienced too. Most of them came in and said, I need anger management. I'm angry all the time.
Right. And I think it's a classical conditioning. It's a Pavlov's dog all over again. from the time, young boys, are 2, 3, 4 years old, boys are told oftentimes, don't cry, be tough, toughen up, don't let people push you around, um, suck it up, don't show emotions. I mean, a lot of that is almost like it's taught, and I understand the mindset behind it. I'm a product of the '70s, so I do understand that line of thought. But I think what we are seeing now is the impact it has on men as we get older, and we've never been taught on how to express ourselves or how to actually feel something, understand it, and express it in a way outside of punching a wall or throwing things across the room.
Yeah, absolutely. So from your experience, what is the greatest thing preventing men from seeking mental health?
The fear of appearing weak has been my experience. I won't say pride because that just sounds too judgmental, or too much of a finger pointing. Um, but I mean, I think I think men are very insecure people from a variety of standpoints, and one of them is, um, we have this ingrained fear of appearing weak or less than, um, whether it be out of fear of being taken advantage of, fear of being hurt, um, or fear of being disrespected. I honestly, it's a variety of possibilities. Um, but I think in the context of mental health, if you're having a mental health issue, oftentimes in our culture we are believed to be because we can't handle it, we're weak, or worse. I mean, if if a person has a shoulder injury and they can't perform their duties as a professional athlete, nobody bats an eye. There's a shoulder injury. I could look at an X-ray, I could look at an MRI, I can see the injury. The injury is legit, and we will fix it. There is no MRI, there is no CAT scan, there is no X-ray to show depression. And so when men have an injury that you cannot see, nor one that you can prove, that creates a lot of problems. It creates a lot of doubt. It creates a lot of stress, and we just want to pretend it doesn't exist. And I mean, if you think about it, back way, well, this might be before your time, um, but back before GPS systems, a man would drive 100 miles out of his way before he would stop and ask for directions. Of course, that's stereotyping men, but I mean, all the guys out there are probably smiling right now because they know it's true, that we are just really bad at asking for help. Um, to the fact that we'll drive 100 miles the wrong way before we're willing to stop and say, "Hey, I'm lost. Can you help me?" Um, think about in the context of mental health. How long will a typical man suffer before he is willing to allow himself to appear weak and ask for help?
So if I'm hearing you right, the greatest barrier is more internal than it
Yes,
is.
that is my experience. That is my belief. Yes,
Okay. So as a man, what do you do to take care of your own mental wellness?
I think my one of my best attributes, for lack of better terms, is self-awareness. Um, I obviously know myself better than anybody else on this planet. Um, I have taken a lot of time to take inventory of myself. Um, what are my likes, my dislikes? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are things that I feel like are positive aspects of me, and what are things that are not so positive about me? I know my story very well. And with that comes my ability, I believe, is to kind of monitor where I'm at almost in real time, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Um, and I take inventory of that often. Now, I obviously I make mistakes in the script like everybody else. I mean, you could talk to my wife and she could tell you all kinds of things that I do wrong, you know. Um, but I think just over my, 25, 30 years of doing this, I just think I have learned the importance of self-awareness and tracking myself and checking myself. Um, Not being afraid to ask for help, even though I still struggle with that. Whether that be asking for help around, around the office, around my house, or even, I'll walk up and down Lowe's 16 times before I'll stop an associate and say, "Hey, where are the nails? Can't find them." You know, so something as silly as that is still something that I struggle with. Um, so that's probably the biggest thing. The second biggest thing I think I would say is um, I keep things in my life very simplistic. Um, I grew up pretty simple, and I mean that in a good way. And so I try to keep my life simple now. I don't overly complicate things by extending myself financially, extending myself with time, um, by stepping too far away from my spiritual beliefs. Um, and I just take time for me. I do things that I enjoy. Um, there are 4 or 5 things that I feel like make me who I am that are important to me. Um, and I make sure that at least a couple of times a month I take time to spend time doing those things, whether it's golfing, hockey, hiking, fishing, hunting, whatever it is that people do, quilting, whatever. Um, I think we should all spend more time doing those things that make us who we are as a person.
What advice do you have for men in regards to their mental wellness?
Again, I would say a couple of things. Know yourself, know your strengths, weaknesses, know what triggers you have, where are your sore spots, what are things about you or your life that bother you, um, so that when those things get triggered, you can control the emotions won't control you. Um, it's kind of like, one of my groups talk an awful lot about the idea of being sucker punched. Um, if if you know someone's about to punch in the face and you're able to prepare for it and steady yourself for it, I mean, it still may hurt, but you'll be able to withstand it. Um, if you don't see it coming and somebody sucker punches you, it's going to knock you unconscious. Not because you're weak, but because you didn't see it coming. So I think the idea of self-awareness is a big aspect of that. Um, in one of my groups, we talk a lot about this concept of what does a life worth living look like to you? And I think with that concept, it stems down to like it helps make decisions, it helps guide us as people, um, so that we know, hey, this is the kind of man I want to be. This is the kind of neighbor I want to be, the kind of husband, the kind of father, the kind of church, goer, or student, or whatever aspects you have in your life. Um, if you know at least a concept of what life worth living looks like to you, it can just be kind of like a guide or a compass, so that even though you might stray a little bit northwest, you might stray a little bit northeast, but you continue going north, or you continue going in a direction that's important to you. Um, and as cliche as it sounds, don't be afraid to ask for help. Um, it's I truly believe that, over the last 20 years, this field has done a lot of work in breaking down the stigma of getting help. Um, I mean, it's advertised on television now. It's advertised during sporting events. Um, like for example, every NBA team right now it has a behavioral health team or clinic for their players. I think that's phenomenal. I really do. And it's not just sports psychology. It's not just to make them a better performer. It's to help them with stress, anxiety, depression, adjustment issues. I mean, so that is a rule now in the NBA, from my understanding, that every team has to have behavioral providers. And I don't know if other leagues have adopted that. Um, I think it kind of goes to show that the stigma of getting help is less and less. Um, and I can just tell you that a lot of especially some of the men of my generation that I see here, the first sergeants, the sergeant majors, the brigade commanders, that come in, you can almost see the 1,000 pounds off their shoulders being lifted as we speak. They sit a little taller. They don't feel so crushed underneath the weight, and the relief is just obvious. So my advice: just go for it. Get the help. See what you think. Base your opinion on mental health care based on your experience, not off your fears.
I love that. I agree with that 100%. Um, so thank you so much for taking the time.
You're very welcome.
I really appreciate your time and your insight and your input on this very important topic.
I was just going to say it's a very important topic, so I'm glad you're addressing it.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.